Today, a federal appeals court ruled that a hugely controversial Texas law known as SB 4 must remain blocked while legal challenges against it continue. If it is allowed to go into effect, SB 4 would criminalize immigration in America's largest border state by giving Texas police the power to arrest and jail migrants suspected of entering the U.S. illegally. And it marks an unprecedented power grab at the state level. At the federal level, Donald Trump is also promising that if reelected, he too will use local police to arrest migrants as part of his massive deportation plan.
As president, I will carry out the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. If they don't go back to their countries, we will never get back our country.
Migrants who are escaping violence and poverty and political uncertainty often cannot go back home. So what these types of policies do is force migrants to wait in parts of Mexico near the U.S. border, hoping to one day sort out their immigration status. And they are in parts of Mexico where dangerous cartels are systematically exploiting migrants with devastating consequences. This is a special report from our MSNBC contributor, Paula Ramos, and I want to warn you that some parts of the story are difficult and disturbing to hear.
So we just crossed from Brownsville, Texas, over to Matamoros. Right now, we're in the state of Tamaulipas, which is considered one of the most dangerous places in Mexico, more than anything because of the cartel violence that's taking place here. Now, every single person that we've talked to on the ground is telling us that the rate of sexual violence against migrants is escalating. It's increasing. It's getting worse by the day. So we're on our way to a refugee shelter to understand the impact that it's having on the migrants that are crossing from these border towns into the United States.
Maria, her husband, and their 2 children say they had to leave Guatemala last year after receiving death threats from the same gang that had already killed nearly half of her family.
No traíamos zapatos, no traíamos ropa, nada.
They traveled north, hoping to be near the U.S. border as they waited for their official immigration appointments, a crucial part of seeking asylum. They had no idea the worst part of their journey would take place just feet away from Texas.
Ya puestos aquí en Tamaulipas, en Reynosa, se sube un grupo. Se cruzó una camioneta blanca y subieron vestidos de negro.
¿Quiénes?
Y empezaron a decir, somos los del Golfo.
¿El cartel del Golfo?
Sí.
¿Estaban armados?
Sí, con pistolas en mano. Y mi marido me quedaba viendo y me dice, nos van a matar.
Porque usted en esos momentos, su marido pensaba que ahí...
Nos iban a quitar la vida. Y empezaron a quitarlo la ropa. Me desvistieron toda delante de él y me empezaron a golpear porque yo les decía que no traía dinero. Y ellos me decían, pásame el teléfono, vamos a contactar a tu familia para que pague tu rescate. No tengo quien pague rescate. Entonces me vas a decir, nos vas a pagar con cuerpo. Empezaron a violarme más de 20 personas. Y me decían que esto te pasa por no pagar. Y para que recuerdes que el territorio mexicano se respeta. Yo les decía, ya no puedo más, déjenme por favor.
¿Usted tiene marcas del ataque que sufrió y de las violaciones?
Sí, tengo en mi cabeza, en mi rostro, en mis pies, en mis manos. Me abrieron aquí también. Querían meter drogas para que yo pasara. Yo les dije que no.
Many of the migrants in the shelter have endured similar situations.
¿Cuánto tiempo estuviste secuestrada?
Como casi un mes.
¿Un mes?
Sí, porque no tengo dinero, entonces me abusó de mí.
En ese mes que estuviste secuestrada, ¿te violaron muchas veces?
Como 4 veces.
¿Había más mujeres contigo?
Sí, había 3 mujeres conmigo.
¿Y las 4 estuvieron abusadas también?
Sí.
What's happening to these women might not be a coincidence. Cartels have developed a systematic, organized method to kidnap and collect ransom from migrants on their way to their immigration appointments.
Ahorita se están subiendo muchos a los autobuses
y preguntando si vienen a las citas. Algunas personas dicen que sí y las bajan, les checan sus maletas, les quitan todo su dinero, les pegan para poderles también mandarle ese video a sus familiares para que vean que es verdad que están secuestrados.
Doctors Without Borders has seen this crisis up close. From October to December of 2023, they recorded a 70% increase in consultations for sexual violence in Matamoros and Reynosa compared to the prior 3 months. In the first 2 months of 2024, they have already seen nearly 70 cases.
I just got back from talking to 3 asylum seekers, and at least 2 of them have been sexually assaulted. Is that what you guys are seeing on the ground too?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, when we have the consultations, our patients also tell us their stories, which are quite traumatizing.
The violence is creating a new crisis for many migrants: unwanted pregnancies.
Do you offer pregnancy tests?
It is part of the protocol that we follow. It's actually the first medical treatment.
And does Doctors Without Borders also offer access to abortions or abortion pills? Is that something that's part of the work that you do?
We are actually very concerned all over the world, wherever we operate. We are very concerned about the unwanted pregnancies. We try to ensure that services are being offered to the women, and also to ensure that we ourselves adhere to the laws and norms of the country.
What many migrants don't know is that once they cross that border, a line that represents security, dreams, and opportunities, they're walking into the realities of post-Roe America.
¿Conoces sobre las leyes de aborto en Estados Unidos en estos momentos, en Texas?
No.
Joining me now is Paula Ramos, MSNBC contributor and host of MSNBC Field Report. Paula, it's so great seeing you. You're bringing back stories that are not being told and need to be told as we have this raging debate about immigration and don't actually talk about the people involved here. What did you see on the border in terms of the sexual violence? The story that we played earlier was harrowing.
Terrible.
And I wonder if you could talk sort of broadly about the picture you saw when you were there.
Yeah, so when you think about the women that we just saw, I think of this image, right? These are women that are sort of stuck in between 2 walls. On the Mexican side of the border, they're faced with this incredibly vicious sexual violence. And then when they look the other way, when they look at the American side of the border, they're faced with post-Roe America. And so the product of that is that suddenly you're seeing this growing group of migrant women that are stepping into post-Roe America with rape-related unwanted pregnancies.
God.
And the reason why, and that's what we found in our reporting, is because there is this very alarming spike of sexual violence against migrant women. That's something that Doctors Without Borders told us, lawyers are telling us that, activists told us, the migrants themselves. And the difference now is that, you know, cartel violence has always been a norm.
Yeah.
If you go to the border, that's the norm. The difference now is that the cartels are very explicitly weaponizing sexual violence as yet another form of extortion, torture to get what they want.
Can you talk a little bit about how the cartels functionally operate?
It's very simple, right? And some people won't want to hear this. The longer migrants wait on the Mexican side of the border, the more the cartels profit. Unfortunately, cartel violence is very deeply intertwined with the U.S. failed immigration policy and failed asylum-seeking process. And so this is what happens, right? The cartels have leveraged the very long waiting times that immigrants are faced with on the Mexican side of the border because of policies like Trump's Title 42, Remain in Mexico, and now Biden's CBP-1 application, which essentially pushes migrants right now to wait on the Mexican side of the border as they're waiting for their immigration appointments. And so as migrants wait, and as they adapt to the different U.S. policy changes, so too do the cartels. Through that time, they have developed simply more sophisticated and organized methods of violence. They know the routes, they know the buses, they know when the immigration appointments are. And so it used to be that migrants could just pay with cash when you were held hostage, but now you have to pay with your body.
Right, because you don't have the cash.
Because you don't have the cash. And that violence is not just more vicious, it's not just more terrifying, but now the problem is that we are feeling the ramifications of that violence. Now we are the ones that are faced with these migrant women
that are carrying those pregnancies. So what do we do?
And have nothing, and they come to a state like Texas where their options are nil.
Are nil, exactly.
Effectively, what you're telling me is that immigration policy so broken is forcing these extraordinarily long waiting times. There's no diminished appetite for, there's no appetite for decreasing those wait times, by the way, on either side of the aisle here in the U.S. And migrants are effectively preyed upon by these cartels. Are they, I mean, is there any protection for them? Is there any sort of recourse for them as they effectively lie waiting to be preyed upon by dangerous cartels?
No, anyone that walks, and precisely, I think that's something that President Biden should have done when he visited the border, right? You can say everything you want, we can talk about policy, but go to the other side and you will see this. And so I think it's very important to understand that, you know, no matter how conservative you are at the border, no matter how hard you want to, you know, make it for these migrants to come to the U.S., that only benefits the cartels. Migrants will continue to come. You know, the type of desperation we just saw on our screens, that is not deterred by laws and policies and policy debates. It's not. People will continue to migrate north. And so what do?
The desperation is so acute, and it is driving people to do things that are debasing their own, that force them to debase their own humanity. And we are not looking at this. We're not talking about this at all. Your reporting is really so essential. I'm so grateful for everything you do to shine a light on this, Paola. Really, really important stuff. Thanks for making the time tonight.
Thank you so much.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.